Chapter 57 of the Tao Te Ching, Tao pronounced like Tao and Hao, is about what happens when a ruler stops trying so hard. Not a chapter about passivity or surrender. It's about the counterintuitive possibility that the less a government does to its people, the better things go. Here is the original, transliterated into pinyin so you can hear the shape of it. Yi zhèng zhai guo yi kai yong bing yi wu shi chan zia, hu hei yi shai kai ron zai, yi sai, tan zia duo jai hue, air min mai pin. Min duo lai kai, yu jia zai hun, rain duo jai qiǎo, kai wu zai kai, fa ling zai zhāng, dao zai duo yu, gu shèng rain yun, wo wu wei, air min zai ha, wo hao jing, air min zai zhèng, wo wu shi, air min zai fu, wo wu yu, air min zai pu. And in English, govern the state with uprightness, wage war with surprise, win the world by not interfering. How do I know this is so? By observing. The more prohibitions the world has, the poorer the people become, the more weapons people possess, the more trouble the state grows, the more clever techniques people pursue, the more strange and troubling things arise, the more laws and edicts are proclaimed, the more thieves and robbers appear. So the sage says, I act without forcing and the people transform on their own. I love stillness and the people right themselves. I attend to nothing and the people grow prosperous. I want nothing and the people return to what is essential. The chapter opens with three parallel statements that seem almost contradictory. Govern with uprightness, that makes sense. Wage war with surprise tactics, fine, that's strategy. But win the world with wuxi, non-interference, not making things your business, that's the one that stops you. Laozi, Laozi, isn't saying don't govern. He's making a distinction between what you do and what you force. The opening lines hold three registers: the civic, the military, the total, and only the third, winning the whole world, operates through not doing. Then comes the evidence, not argument, not philosophy, observation. Four then statements, each describing a common intervention and its unexpected result. The more prohibitions the world has, the poorer people become. Think about what prohibitions actually do. They create the category of the forbidden, which requires enforcement, which requires the machinery of enforcement, which diverts energy from actual production into compliance and punishment. People become poorer not despite the prohibitions but through the weight of administering them. The more weapons people possess, the more confused the state grows. When force becomes the primary language of society, decisions get made by whoever holds the most force, not whoever has the clearest thinking. The state loses its coherence. The more clever techniques people pursue, jai qiǎo, skill and cunning, the more strange things arise. Technique without grounding tends to produce novelty for its own sake, things that are impressive but not useful, innovations that create new problems faster than they solve old ones. The more laws and edicts are proclaimed, the more thieves and robbers appear. This is the most direct reversal. The machinery meant to suppress wrongdoing produces more of it. Not because laws are bad, but because an excess of them means more things are classified as violations, more people are pushed outside the social contract, and the law itself starts to look like a game to be played rather than a standard to be met. Then the sage speaks in the first person, and says the same thing four ways. I act without forcing, and the people transform on their own. The word here, ha, implies a natural unfolding, not a commanded change. The people don't follow orders, they grow into something. I love stillness, and the people right themselves. The word for right, zhèng, is the same word from the opening. Govern with uprightness. The sage doesn't impose uprightness. By being still, the people find it. I attend to nothing, and the people grow prosperous. I want nothing, and the people return to pu, uncarved wood, the simple and undivided. The Tao Te Jing returns to this image again and again, not primitive, but unspoiled. When not pulled this way and that by the ruler's desires, the people find their way back to something essential in themselves. This chapter is often read as a critique of big government, and it has been, from different directions, for centuries. But that reading grabs only the edges of it. What Laozi is describing is something more specific, the problem of management that mistakes activity for effectiveness. The ruler who multiplies rules to demonstrate control. The administrator who adds complexity to justify their role. The system that generates its own demand. The observation is worth sitting with. More intervention, more prohibition, more clever technique, and things get worse. Not always, not as an iron law, but often enough that someone noticed it more than 2,000 years ago and thought it worth writing down. What you carry from this, if you carry anything, might be a question. When you're trying to fix something, a problem at work, a situation in your household, a community issue, is the first instinct to add, to prohibit, regulate, restructure, and what would happen if you didn't? The sage doesn't do nothing. The sage governs with uprightness. That opening line stands. But the uprightness comes from what the ruler is, not from what the ruler commands. The world transformed on its own. The people righted themselves. That's either the most naive claim in this text, or the deepest. Chapter 58 takes this further.